Nelms?
Here.
So Counselor Walton's out. So you saw it before.
Okay, thank you. Before we get started, I would,
He's here.
okay,
Counselor Walton,
Present.
and everybody's present.
great, thank you. The minutes have been distributed, and so I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Counselor Wolverton, second from Counselor Nelms. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 5-0. I want to thank Counselor Gwaltney for chairing for me last week. My high school senior had 3 negative COVID tests, so I was able to get back in the action. Okay, old business, 160115, update on past, present, and future sidewalk projects from our beloved Greg Cobb, newly retired. We will carry this over. We will continue to keep this on the agenda and carry over. Item 300619, request to consider an ordinance to govern appearance of small cell antennas. Counselor Britt Thames. Counselor Gwaltney?
Mr. Kendrick, did I see a new adjustment to one of the titles come out from the FCC last week? Or am I thinking? I thought there was an amendment that came out that governed. Yeah. I'll put together some guidelines. It's just been pretty low on the list.
You've got the Super Bowl coming up this
Yeah,
weekend.
the goal
so-
was, since we have to follow the existing FCC guidelines, and they really don't give us a lot of leeway in the placement of these locations, I do believe what we can do is put some context around the aesthetics, the type of pole that are used. I don't want to just blanket say that we need to use a steel pole here, whereas there may be like 25 wooden poles in a row, and that's the least, visually obstructing way to do it. So I wanted to just try to get some context around it so we could at least have some
Well,
thought.
I will say this, and Mr. Kendrick and Mr. Wyatt, for y'all as well. I did speak with Brian Parker last week from the League of Municipalities, and we're going to be in Montgomery on Tuesday having the same conversation. But that is actually on the agenda for the upcoming session in the state legislature. Yeah, so this is coming around again, and he highlighted 6 bills for me, and this was one of them. So
Yes, state West franchise.
this is, something that we all have interest in. Will not be what?
Will not be favorable to the city.
Basically.
Okay.
Essentially, they want to take that out of statewide.
Well, I guess the ALM would oppose that then, right?
It's still,
Okay. All right, well, we will carry that over then. Okay. Okay, 020121, request for presentation of Apple study for Central Avenue East improvements, Councilors Anderson and Gwaltney. And I hated not being here last week to hear that, but I was able to follow it on Zoom, and it was a great presentation, and I just really think this could just be a game changer for the city. But Councilor Gwaltney and I have discussed, given the financial situation where we are right now, that obviously we are not looking to spend any money in the next several months. And so it is my belief, and Councilor Gwaltney's as well, that we'll go ahead and send this to the table for now and then bring it back around either after the mid-year review or as we head into budget hearings. So with that, I would entertain a motion to send this to the table.
So moved.
By Councilor Gwaltney. Second from Councilor Nelms. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes 5-0, so we will send 020121 to the table. New business, 110121, request for consideration for city murals from myself and from Planning Commission Chair Jeff Foster, and I think, oh, he's here. Okay, great. So this came about, this came about this time. This has come about several times the last few years. I've had it on the agenda, I think Wolverton and I had it on the agenda last year or 2 years ago. But now I'm on the Planning Commission, and I had a long conversation with the fourth floor. And I know Chairman Foster feels the same way, that we need a citywide comprehensive, in my mind, a citywide comprehensive policy. And I know the fourth floor really feels that way too. They feel like we're vulnerable right now. So I know President Wyatt just loves having this back on the agenda. But Vicky's here from the fourth floor, and so she has done us a proposal, a draft of some of the ideas that they were talking about in the fourth floor. And if you want to come forward and present that, and then we can kind of start that conversation from there.
This is a very early draft, something to just get us started.
Thank you. Can I have one for the record if you have one?
And again, this was early on when we were bringing it up at Planning and Development, Planning Commission with regards to a case we had in West Homewood. We realized we really didn't have anything to govern the design, the size, the placement. So I started trying to put, in fact, you'll see it says West Homewood District on the design, and we also were talking about roof signs, so that's at the back. But this was just something I put together that I hope that we could start with and start discussions on how we want to regulate these. And as Mr. Kendrick reminded me, we can't regulate content at all, so I don't know if we want to draw a line if it has text on it or whether it's just a picture. Are we going to count it as part of their signage if it's a area-wide, like in the case of Edgewood, a community sign? So there's a lot of pieces of this puzzle to put together.
Mr. Foster, do you have anything that you want to add?
Jeff Foster. I just want to echo what Jennifer said. I think it's really important that we try and think about this proactively. There's been a lot of cases lately in other small cities, municipalities. I think there was a case, Mr. Kendrick's probably more familiar, last year in Dora, Florida, or something like that, where someone painted essentially all of Starry Night on their structure. And I think that as tricky as this is, I think we need to start to take a look at it to just be proactive. We've got at least 2 up right now. One in Edgewood and I think one in West Homewood on the side of a building. And whatever we can do now to be proactive to address this, I think we need to take this first step. So thanks for considering it.
I was just letting you know too that Amy Milam called because she was wanting to do a mural at the Sims
Yes,
Garden.
that's right.
So I think she's waiting on this too for just letting you know.
And I've heard from her and also from the artist that she hired for, to do the artwork. And President Wyatt.
So this has come up before, and I'll say what I said then. I think the murals we have in the city are wonderful, and they're great, and they're pretty, and I love what they add. But if it were up to me, we just wouldn't have them, because we run into this problem every time we try to do this, and it's that you can regulate for size, you can regulate for location, you can regulate for things like that, but you cannot regulate content. The U.S. Supreme Court has made that abundantly clear. That means that whatever someone wants to put up there, you're pretty much stuck with it. And someday, I agree with Mr. Foster, something's going to come up there that we don't like. And when it does, it's going to be really hard for us to do anything about it, regardless of what we do with this policy. So, you know, for me, if you want to regulate it, again, all that I see that we can do that's enforceable is size, location, material, things like that, which this document does do that. Then we get into some trouble with number 7, which says murals shall not contain words in any language, symbols, or representations that are obscene, offensive, of a political nature, or are derogatory. I don't know how we regulate that. I don't think we can. And so, you know, how we try to set something up that solves the problem that we're actually trying to solve, I don't know, other than to say you can't have murals. I will say, if the council, and look, that's my position. There are plenty of good reasons to have murals. I will say that if we are regulating, and again, the only things I see that we can regulate are things that are objective, viewable things. It can only be this by this. It can only be on the side of a building. It can only be all of that stuff. If we're doing that, I don't really see any need for it to be approved by the Planning Commission or City Council or anybody else, because that's objective things that can be viewed by the BEZ department. So, you know, if it can be measured, you can determine what the side of the building is, you can do all that stuff. And maybe there needs to be an appeal process to the BZA or something like that. If there's some hardship theoretically for a mural, I feel silly even uttering those words. But, maybe there is something like that, but I don't see any need for an initial review because the only thing that we can regulate are things that are objectively measured. That's my opinion.
I like it. Anyone on the committee? Counselor Sims.
Thank you. So, in follow-up to your comments, Counselor White, I do think there's a couple things about this. It is a tough situation because I, for one, love the murals. I love public art. I'd love to see more in our city. And I want to come up with something that would actually foster the creation of more of that, as well as, enhance, maintain and continue to have what we have now. So I think it's very important to look at how to balance, the regulation of it and the fostering of additional murals and public art. So from that consideration, I would just like to know more about the current process if somebody wanted to place a mural. This references a permit. So are you saying right now it could go through BEZ?
Right now, it doesn't go through anything.
Okay.
Unless you're in West Homewood.
There is no regulation of murals in Homewood right now.
Unless you're in West Homewood, which is still, West Homewood has to go to the planning commission.
We have a sign ordinance that's not a part of the zoning ordinance, except for certain areas. Woodwood, Wildwood, and West Homewood. This proposes that the BCA be the appeal process. You can only have an appeal to the BCA if it's part of the zoning ordinance. The BCA has no jurisdiction over anything other than variances to the zoning ordinance, so it has to be a part of the zoning ordinance. The standalone ordinance we have presently we contracted with our placemaker, I think, is a standalone ordinance, not part of the zoning ordinance. So that would not be feasible.
And that was the problem, was the planning commission, we were hearing a mural that was in West Homewood, and that was, the question was, why are we? What? Yeah. Is there any way we could overlay?
You could make a provision of all those that all signs would be regulated by the sign ordinance. Take that up with each of them.
Then that takes out, well, that's a big step from where we are right now, actually. I didn't think about that.
And, you can't pick and choose.
Right.
Either it applies to the city as a whole or applies to specific areas. That's really your call.
That's the point. I think what, and Jeff, don't let me speak for you, but I think we wanted to see something that sort of applied citywide. Would you agree with that?
I think we just need to be consistent citywide. Whatever it is, we need to be consistent citywide.
Yeah.
That's my position on that.
Just question, so if we did adopt something citywide, this would override like the West Homewood?
You'd have to amend the West Homewood ordinance, essentially take out the sign provision and say signs in that district and all other districts would be controlled by the sign ordinance.
Because I would like that. I mean, just in terms of, I would like consistency across cities, so I think that would be a good idea we're all on the same page, whatever we decide.
It is consistent throughout the city.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Jeff, did you want to add to that?
No, I just want to echo that comment. I 100% agree with Councilman Almon's comment on that. We have to be consistent. And right now, we have two that are just there, and people don't know what to do. And so consistency.
Can't hear anything in the back.
Okay. Ms. Gear?
So a question, so right now, there's really no ordinance except for in West Homewood.
No, we
And-
have a sign ordinance, but murals were specifically exempted as not being, as a council procedure.
It was.
And just to
So-
add a little bit more to that, the difference being a sign is commercial. So at one point, there was, what was the name of the place before it was Maple Street? Holler and Dash.
yeah.
Wanted to do a mural that was for a business purpose and included on the side of their building, and that was not allowed because it would have been an extra sign, so it would have fallen under the sign ordinance. A mural does not, by definition, is not a commercial sign.
Okay,
And so that's why murals are set apart from the sign ordinance.
okay. And so one of our options would be simply to remove the mural the mural requirements in the West Homewood.
There's no more requirement.
There are
Oh, okay.
It's not
There's
prohibited,
nothing.
so therefore it's.
So the reason that we're considering this is because the mural was brought forward and there was some question about it.
Mural was brought forward in West Homewood, and it came to the planning commission, and that per the policy of the sign ordinance in West Homewood. And we felt like there needed to be a citywide decision on murals.
Okay.
And that brought back in the fourth floor, had their concerns that we were leaving ourselves vulnerable and wanted some sort of regulation. And so those two conversations kind of were happening at the same time, and that's why we're here.
But we do have the option to not have a mural ordinance.
Yeah, which is where we are now in the rest of the city, other than the West Homewood.
For purposes of consistency,
Brooklyn.
correct, we could take that out of West Homewood. I think the fourth floor is raising it for an additional reason. It's part of the reason we're here.
No, it's unregulated, it's there's no standard, really, in West Homewood or anywhere else. So your options are to regulate it to the extent you can, which doesn't include any content, or to prohibit it. That's the option.
And I will say, I, for one, would like to figure out a way to regulate them, because I like having them, I like what they add to the city, and I think they bring people into the city, their points of interest. You know, we have taken our running group downtown in Birmingham and taken tours of the murals on foot. I mean, I think it brings something to the city of Avondale, you know, showing up in front of Mel, get your picture made in front of the wings. I think it adds to the city, so that's my opinion. So I'd like to make it work, even though the lawyer,
Look, I don't
And I'm
disagree
married to
with,
lawyers,
I
I
don't
know.
disagree with you. The murals that we have so far have been nice. I just wonder what we do when the
Right.
mural shows up that people don't like or find offensive. Yeah, we can't do anything at that point. And so,
Maybe the court of public
if
opinion
we,
would.
the only way in my mind to be proactive to solve, because the problem, what we're concerned about is not size, it's not materials, it's not location. Those things help, but that's not what we're concerned about. What we're concerned about is content, which we can't regulate. So the only way to solve the problem is to say we can't have murals under the law. And you know, until the Supreme Court changes that, that's what we're stuck with. And it's not that I don't like murals. I think they're great. I just worry about the day when something comes up that people don't like or that some people find offensive, and we're not able to do anything.
well, for sure, someone's gonna find something offensive, because someone finds something offensive of everything. So let's start with that. But my question is, if somebody has to go through a process where they have to get approval by the city, I mean, in any ways, don't you think that mitigates a little bit of that risk? I mean, do you think that
But-
they have to come forward, if they have to show themselves on the fourth floor, present plans, at some point,
And they
don't
have
you
to get
think they wanna be
permission from some
agreeable,
property owner, right?
Vicki? Would you
Sure,
agree with that, or Wyatt?
But again,
If we approve one and don't approve another,
now
they can sue
it's
us.
unenforceable.
But,
So,
but now we're back to size or materials or.
no, so if it comes, I guess my point is, if we're dealing with size and that sort of stuff, the fourth floor can just measure that, and that's an objective thing, and we can regulate that. And if that's what we want to do, I don't have any issue with it. My point is simply that doesn't solve the problem of content. If we have it come before a board, whether it's this council or planning commission or some council we create, that council can't regulate for content any more than we can with the ordinance, which means if they approve one and don't approve another, it's unenforceable. And we're stuck with the obscene thing that we don't like. There's just no way, I don't think there's any way around this.
Unfortunately, this proposal that says murals should not contain words or any language, symbols, or representation are obscene, offensive, or political nature, or derogatory. I can tell you, you can't regulate offensive and derogatory. You may be some degree political, obscene, those, what's obscene to one is not always obscene to someone else, so that's a little gray area too.
Not religious too, not religious.
Counselor Sims, you have something you want to say?
Yes, Counselor Andrews, I was just going to say, obviously, this is an early draft to look at this, and so I mean, I think it's a worthwhile, review to look at what our options are for both regulation, but definitely for consistency. And so I think we can, look at best practices from other surrounding jurisdictions and also those things that they've tried to regulate and prohibit, and how they found a way to do that. And, hopefully we can come back with some recommendations based off that research.
We hired someone to draft our sign ordinance. It might be helpful that we might ask them if they have some other advice, because they did at one point regulate murals, and that was part of the discussion. It was deleted because there was no consensus, I believe.
I will reach out to Hazel on that. How about that?
Yeah.
Before, okay. And this is, like Vicki said, this is a working document, so we can drop number 7, obviously, right, Vicki? And that's, so, okay. Anyone else want to share anything? And then otherwise, I can reach out to our expert that we used
Now,
last year.
do we really want to drop number 7 or be specific about it being explicit language or something? Because, we do care what kids see, what minors see. There has to be something of that nature in there.
Well, I
And-
think, Counselor Nels, I think that's the point. What they're saying is that we
Oh, it is.
cannot, that the Supreme Court has ruled that we cannot regulate content in that way.
I think we have some fighting words, things that the Supreme Court has said are obscene. Maybe it's not what you think's obscene, somebody else thinks is not obscene. So that's a gray area. There are definitions, I don't think you could use certain features that would display some kind of sexual conduct or something like
Right.
that. But,
So more along the lines of
but
explicit.
the words obscene and offensive and derogatory
Right.
are just unenforceable.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just saying to change that wording to make it more specific to explicit or specifically, curse words or whatever should be on there.
The Supreme Court said curse words in some form is not offensive,
Food curse words.
unfortunately. A curse word to you might be offensive and it might not be to someone else.
But could we specifically say curse words, not words that are offensive?
We can define it based on the Supreme Court,
Got it.
what they've said is obscene,
Okay.
or not obscene, but I've lost my track of things. Pornography. You can regulate pornography.
Which the famous line is, I don't know what it is, but,
Yes.
or I can't tell you what it is, but I know it when I see
See
it.
it, that's right, that's what the Supreme Court said. It's not so clear, unfortunately, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be evasive, but these words are too generalized, if you want to. Maybe Hazel can help us with some of
Okay.
that.
Vicki, maybe you and I can set up a call with Hazel. What do you think about that? Okay. Do you want to talk about roof signs tonight, or do you want to carry that over?
The Hazel board.
Do you have that included in this as well?
Drafted this in orders originally.
Uh-huh.
without a message on them, that's one way, but yeah, otherwise the wording. The size is an arbitrary number, and I wrote this for West Homewood because that's who came to us with the request to add murals to the list. But, and the 60% is just an arbitrary number to start with. I know most folks that paint them seem to want the entire facade, and I was trying to kind of keep that a little in check, but, it's arbitrary, it's an arbitrary number.
Anybody else? Jeff, you have anything you want to add?
I'm excited we're even considering it, because I'm a big supporter of public art. So.
Wait, just, I'm sorry.
I'm just excited that we're considering it because I'm a big supporter of public art, and anything I can do to help, let me know.
Can I just add one?
Yeah, oh, yeah, Councilor.
If the council can go back and look at what we had to go through previously on murals, it was very, very ugly. It was not a unifying debate, It was very divisive, and we ended up not really doing much. But people get so emotional about this. I'm concerned about kind of the repercussions moving forward about it. And it was a simple thing as "You are beautiful." And it became a lightning rod, and it became very ugly quickly. So when you might have the idea murals are great, you're going to have people who are standing up saying this is destroying our city. I'd just be prepared for that. It's a very emotional issue, and we can get minutes from previous meetings to kind of go. You can read through what all we went through, but it was not a pleasant experience. So
Thank you.
I'll just add that.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, we will carry item 110121 over. And with that, we are adjourned.